to our sampling participants. I looked at the MAP scores, projected proficiency report for just the 6th grade. In the 601 group, which we know is our high ability group.
Teachers, we need the following buses to be dismissed at this time. Bebo's first round, Mike O'Quinn, and Aaron Ward.
We have 1 novice, and this is just in reading. 1 novice, 9 apprentice, 15 proficient, and 7 distinguished. And then in the low ability group, we have 13 novice, 11 apprentice, 4 proficient, and 0 distinguished. And over here, it says that what the data tells us is that we actually have double the number of novice as we do distinguished. So we have 14 novice and 7 distinguished. That's something that we definitely want to fix before K-Prep. Okay, so this is the materials that I decided to use. I used a pre-test and a post-test just to see how much the students improved. This is the test that I chose, and I have a link here. It's a test from Nebraska, actually. And I just took a couple of samples of it. I didn't use the entire test. So I used 2 samples. Let's see, it's 2 reading passages. One is a speech, and the second one is a science article with a diagram. And there's a total of 15 multiple choice questions. I wanted to do something that they could complete in 1 class period. And then some of my other materials, of course, are the student work samples, STAR reading scores, and then the students did a short survey just talking about how they liked the close reading strategy. Okay, and this is just a copy of the survey that I gave the students, and they just wrote whether they strongly agreed, weren't sure, disagreed, or strongly disagreed. And I asked them about the overall helpfulness with a new text, with text that they didn't initially understand, new poetry, science, news articles, historical documents, and did it help them to locate key details. And this is just 2 snapshots I did of some student work. This is the poem Annabelle Lee. And what I had the students do, and I have the steps written out here, the students initially just read the poem silently to themselves, and then they reread it silently to themselves again, but this time they marked the text, any words that they didn't know, they circled. Any questions they had, they wrote it out on the sides. If they noticed anything, like they noticed a metaphor, personification, they labeled it. Then in the second step, they have 10 minutes where they can team up with their elbow partner, somebody close, and they look up those words that they both circled, they answer each other's questions, they talk about what they think the poem meant, and then in step 3, we worked out on it as a class, and we discussed what we found, what we learned, and what we think the poem meant. And we mostly just discussed figurative language since this was poetry. And then here, I didn't do a whole lot with history, but what I did do was the Declaration of Independence. And I found an article or an assignment where it broke the Declaration of Independence into smaller parts. And the students were to basically mark the text and then answer the questions that came after. So these are 3 examples. And you can see here that this student actually marked where she could find the answer to number 3, the answer to number 4, and they did pretty well on it where they were able to break it down into smaller parts. Okay, and this is the data analysis. This is the STAR reading. So I had the students take the STAR test in August. So the yellow is August, and then what is in dark purple is February. So the students that were below the 25th percentile, as you can see, in August they were at about 48%, and in February they were below 40, they were about 39, 38%. So that number did decrease. And as you can see, the 75th and above increased. So they did do better, but because we've had so many snow days, we actually had 2 snow days, 2 NTI days, President's Day, and we had an early dismissal right before we did the STAR test. So I think the scores would have been much better if we'd been in school consistently, but because we had so much time out, I don't think the students were on their A game. So they're going to take this test again. I think that they'll show more growth the second time. Okay, and this is just showing the results of the pre-test and post-test. We had 38% that grew, 46% that stayed the same, and 16% that regressed. They didn't do better than they did the first time, and 56 students took this. Possible reasons for the lack of growth. Once again, we had all those snow days. I didn't get to do all the lessons that I had intended for this particular action research plan. So they didn't really get I didn't get the research completed. So I think that they would have done better had the research went more smoothly. Okay, and this is the survey that the students had taken, and I asked them, if you remember, how they felt close reading helped them with poetry. And a large number, actually about 65%, strongly agreed that it helped them with poetry. And I think the number is so high here because we did a lot of poetry. We did a lot of Edgar Allan Poe poems, and it helped them to break that down. And we even have a large number that agreed, which is 25%. Very low amount said it didn't help them or they weren't sure. And the number is lower when you get to articles in history. And this, of course, is because I didn't get into the articles in history like I did with the poetry because we had so many snow days, so many interruptions. But overall, the students do feel like it helps them break down the text, find key details, and helps them overall not be so overwhelmed when they see a challenging text. Okay, and this is just reiterating what I already said. You know, the students practice more with poetry, so that is why the survey showed that they strongly agreed it helped them. They were more comfortable annotating the poetry than they were with historical documents or articles because we didn't have that time together. And it shows me that I do need to focus more on nonfiction text. But the students did seem to enjoy it. Overall, it was, the lessons were student-centered. They enjoyed doing the academic talk, and it provided some leadership opportunities for students to share out ideas during classroom discussions. So what suggestions do you have regarding the next steps for this action plan? So my question to you all is, what could I do with the data that I have now?
Use it to help with the novice readers?
Yeah, to help with the novice readers. See, I did the purposeful imitation, but I didn't focus on non-reading, or non-fiction, so you think that I need to incorporate more non-fiction?
Yeah. To draw, if the kids aren't interested in what they're reading, then, that might take away from, they don't do as well, because I'm not into, fictional stuff as much as I am, so I think that would really help as well.
You're right, and that actually probably would help with the boys.
Yeah,
too.
definitely.
Because the boys, I believe, do have a preference, don't they, for nonfiction, so they may show some improvement. That would be good for research, just show like girls and boys and
Given
how they
like
improve.
different, things that they could read for.
I think maybe an incentive, can they maybe do like a boy-girl competition or a most improved
Oh,
or
yeah.
something maybe.
Yeah, and then maybe tally it on the bulletin board so they could see the progress. Yeah,
Yeah,
that sounds great.
That way they would get the benefits without really having to see them.
Right. Okay. Okay, I like those ideas. Okay. And this is just my personal reflection, the benefits of doing an action research plan like we talked about. Just better understanding of what strategies work, provides data to guide instruction. So as you saw, I didn't do so well with the historical documents and the articles because I didn't get to it. So that data showed me that they were needing it. Of course, it leads to professional growth. I know what works, what doesn't, and it helps to evolve instruction so I can meet the needs of the students that we have today. And those are my references for the literature review, if you want to check that out. And this is the second part of the action research, and this is just focusing on the cultural shift survey. And it says, what effect does the cultural shift survey reveal about the middle school PLC at Elkhorn City Elementary School? So just about this particular PLC group. Okay, you move on to the next slide. So the survey that we used, and we did this a couple of weeks ago, I think we actually did it on an NTI day, and it was the culture survey. And the reason I picked this particular survey is because it had a focus on collaboration, and that's something that I'm personally interested in, is collaborating more. And the survey also explores cultural shifts in different categories. So the categories that we focused on were school culture, fundamental purpose, the use of assessments, what we do when students don't learn, the work, the focus, and of course professional development. And this is just a snapshot of what the survey looked like. So I just wanted to include that to remind you what those look like. We're going to look at it again later on. And this is the results of the survey. So school culture, it showed that, let's see, we have a high number in progressing. So there were about 6 people that took the survey. So more people said that we were progressing on school culture. On purpose, we had more that said that we were exemplary, so showed that we had strong school purpose. Assessments, we were progressing. Response, progressing. With the work, more so progressing. And with focus, we were proficient. And professional development, we are exemplary, because we've all been sent to a lot of professional development this year. And this is just another snapshot of what the survey looked like. So again, it said in school culture, so that we were progressing or in the proficient range. So that mostly focuses on, like, do we work independently or interdependence? Do we rely on each other? Is it a language of complaint or a language of commitment? And is it long-term strategic planning or planning for the short-term win? I think for the most part we are, strategically thinking, but the only thing is I think a lot of us work independently. I know I do. And that's something I want to work on. Fundamental purpose is proficient and exemplary, and that focuses on, are we focusing on teaching, are we focusing on learning? And then with use of assessments, we have scored ourselves as progressing, so we're focusing more on we're not focusing on common assessments, we're not sharing the same assessments, and we're not doing a lot of collaborations, and we're not developing assessments in our PLC. That's something that we can do eventually, that we can do later on. Response, just what do we do when the students don't learn? We put progressing and proficient. We do a lot of interventions. We provide extra time and support. I know a lot of people do tutoring after school. With work, beginning and progressing. So again, a lot of us kind of work on our own, but we are getting into that range where we are starting to collaborate more with our PLC. I think that's what the PLC is doing, is helping us with collaboration. Focus is on progressing and proficient levels, so we're focusing on results, using SMART goals, we're using our collaborative teams, forming common assessments, and then with professional development, I think, we're learning by doing. I know with the workshop they sent me to, we did a lot of doing. We had to do writing ourselves. And I know some of you have been to IDLs, and there's some other lesson plan or professional development activities that we've been doing. Possible steps for improvement. These are just some ideas that I threw out that could help us get into the proficiency range in all categories. We could have more colleague conversations, which with our PLC we're doing that. Agenda, something that we could do in our PLCs is show student work samples. How's this student doing for you? This is how he or she's doing for me. Maybe make some common strategies, like if the purposeful annotation had worked really well, like we could all kind of use that, or find something else that we all enjoyed or want to use in our classrooms. Common assessments is common activities we do with our students. Team teach, I think that's more like with special education teachers, like if I'm teaching something, I could bring in Alina or Sherry, and they could kind of work with a smaller group to the side. And then peer observations, we could just kind of observe each other and help each other in that way. And then what is next? What are some possible next steps to improve the culture of the PLC? Or just basically what could we do for our PLC to make it stronger? So what do you think? And this is my last slide.
More conversation between the teachers.
Okay, more conversations.
Yeah, more sharing.
would love to share and see some work samples, like to see if our, math assessments look similar,
Mhm.
and if we kind of have the same components as your reading assessments.
Oh, yeah.
Format, I guess, is better.
And then with the workshop that I went to with constructive response, we did a lot of math. So that's something that I need to share with you all too, the next PLC. So just more conversations.
More time together.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say too. Just having more time together. I mean, we get a little bit, but maybe a little bit more time and just communicating all together and.
Yeah, we really don't get to meet very often, and sometimes it gets interrupted, especially when we have all these snow days and
Yeah.
days. Okay, thank you for